Well, Planet MMX is basically, well, it's Roman for 2020. And the whole show really was conceptualized and developed in 2020. I started actually immediately after the very first lockdown. I got straight into working with this mainly for I could not get myself to do my usual works. This is completely different from what I normally do, and given the atmosphere of the situation, it just was not comfortable for me to come up with something overly serious or overly heavy. And there was a bit more time then. You were focused on work, you couldn't really go on. It allowed me to venture into a new material with which I really enjoyed working with, which was working with wood. I learned how to do wood turning and combining the different layers of wood and putting it together, of course together with my metal work. Actually, the mechanics came a bit late. I had the show pretty much ready a few months back, but then I realized that they were moving already on their own. But then I realized that something was missing, and I decided, okay, these guys have to move, especially since this collection are bots. And it would add such a lot more dimension. So I decided to add motors and LED lights to put a lot more interest in the work, to give it more that futuristic feel. I'm using servo motors, which are actually quite strong, and considering the weight of the parts they have to carry. The series is divided into a number of groups. Of course, over here we have the bots. The bots are the brave operating tech systems, and they also come with the bigger ones, which are the vaccines. The vaccines are the Valiant Artificial Cooperative Community Initiative Neo-Experimental. These are just fun definitions coming up with using the words. But what this is really a tribute to all our frontliners. And when I say frontliners, it's not just, of course, the doctors and the nurses, but it's everyone involved that had to risk their health and their life in order to keep life moving on and service us and keep our community healthy and save them as much as possible. Bots simply for and in a lot of videos and cartoons, there's a lot of these robots, or these Japanese robots that come and save the day, and I sort of compare the frontliners to them. May 2020. Although prior to that, late in 2019, starting to work with wood. But of course, the idea of putting them together started coming in after the ECQ. And then once all the pieces, the idea was formalized, and it was sort of relatively faster. So it took me since May 2020 till, well, down the line till right before opening the exhibit to be able to finish everything. In fact, actually, we are planning a second wave, hopefully to be able to raise more funds. The title of the show is Planet MMXX, the first wave. Hopefully late in the year or early January, we'll be doing a second wave where actually, thank you to Secret Fresh for accommodating me here. We'll be doing a vinyl toy launch, which is done by Toy Cube, a very high quality producer in China. Plus together a few more of these works. The main thing is, I think this exhibit will own this type of work. Most likely I will only do for these two exhibits. I'm working already in 2023. I normally work a year in advance, and I'm going back to more classical signature Daniel works. But this is fun. I mean, personally, I needed this. I mean, everyone I think went through their own trials and difficulties. My son was hospitalized for COVID, and you sympathize and understand how much it would cost, and you realize what about those people who don't have the money to pay for the hospitalization and everything, and you realize it's more serious than if you don't experience it yourself. So we went through it, and it's a learning lesson. But this came about, and I think 10, 20 years down the road, or when we have our grandchildren and everything, we are going to be talking about the times we have gone through. And we are blessed to be able to say that we survived this, we went through this, and we understand what it takes, what happens. And this might be, or hopefully, a takeaway from that exhibit. And maybe down the road, years from now, yes, it will remind you of the difficult times, but at the same time, it hopefully gives you a reason to smile and be a bit more positive. I didn't want to do anything heavy or negative about it. The show is still very much a very strong call to action. It's very much a tribute to the frontliners, their sacrifices. And frontliners are actually not just again the doctors, the guards, the janitors that have to work, but in a way it's a call to action to remind everyone that we all have our part to play. I'm part of the group that founded the Visual Arts Helping Hands Foundation. That foundation was set up solely for the purpose of providing medical assistance to the visual arts community, which is quite unique. Actually, we have a very, very clear mandate on the medical assistance. And of course, during the pandemic, then we got very busy with a lot of requests for assistance, that we had to come up with a specific pandemic policy, which is still in practice now. Sadly, we see it up close. We've had a lot of people in our community who were very much affected. In fact, some of them sadly passed away. So hopefully, in my own small way, this exhibit can contribute to that fund. The frontliners actually were really up against insurmountable odds. And we have here the collection of the virus, which is the virulent insertions of really unsafe stuff. And of course, this is the main opponent of the bots. But there are a lot of other things that contributed to it. We have the collection of crocs, which is calamities and really opportunistic criminal sociopaths. The crocs basically are those who sought to take advantage of the situation. Early on, you noticed that there were people overpricing masks, overpricing equipment, hoarding, and instead of being there to assist the community, they were there actually to make it buck. Of course, calamities we faced a lot. We faced there was Taal, there was the big storms that we had to deal with. So it was just one thing after the other. And then the last batch of opponents that they had to deal with are the pasaways. The prejudiced anti-mask society, always willfully attacking you. These are people actually who got infected, who are not careful, who are not following the protocols, who are basically very careless about the situation and not doing their part. So all of these together against the bots and a very finite number of frontliners at that just made everything just really, really difficult. And it's still ongoing. The battle is ongoing. And that's another main thing about the show, is that we cannot let our guard down. We have to keep on going. We have to keep on doing our part. Another major part of the show, of course, is the main art installation. If you notice, we have in the center what I would call the planet MMXX itself. If you notice, if you come close, actually the whole planet is made out of face shields. So again, it's got a futuristic vibe. Using the face shields to make the planet is really just representative of the protection that we need to do for each other. And of course, you would see all around are the viruses which are actually attacking the planet right now. Whenever I do an exhibit, one of the things that's very important to me is that I do not just show individual works. For me, I work on individual works, but it's always a whole concept. For me, the final artwork is putting everything together and having an experience. I've done an art installation, and I've actually put a lot of effort in working with a very, very talented team to put up this wonderful animation and VFX that tells the story. This took really quite a long number of months as well to prepare. This was prepared by Sidekick Collective, a new group that's been put together by Direct Sid Baderaso, of course one of the top commercial directors in the country now, and he was kind enough to help and support me. Of course, a ton of effort that came from Direct Derek, and of course Pijo, the writer, and it was really a collaborative effort. You know, there were a lot of other videos that you could see on the show. You know, I designed the characters and everything, and then they put it together and made things move and come alive. And I think it's just something that really completes the show.
Insertions of really unsafe stuff. Corrupts, calamities plus really opportunistic criminal sociopaths. Bustle away. Prejudice anti-mass society, always willfully attacking you. Bots, brave operating tech systems.
Bots, on me.
Vaccine, Valiant Artificial Cooperative Community Initiative Neo-Experimental.
It's hero time. Okay guys, let's finish this. Attack! For the human race!
Planet MMX is not just an exhibit, but a display about human resilience in the face of adversity and difficult times. Daniel Dela Cruz's art pieces represent our strength, our creativity, and our unity that will prevail over these current challenges. The project also aims to help benefit the Visual Arts Helping Hands Foundation Incorporated, one of the few foundations founded by artists with the specific goal of providing medical assistance to artists and members of the visual arts community.